Welcome to the Sigma Show, episode 68. I'm your host, Sigma. Welcome back. Before I let you know who is joining me for today's show, real quick, we'll go over what our topics for the week will be. First up, a more in-depth trailer for that new Sonic Frontiers game was revealed. IGN has first dibs on all the content, so they'll, throughout the month, be revealing more and more, but we got a pretty lengthy gameplay demonstration. We'll talk about our impressions of that. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet also got some lengthy reveals and a bunch of news that have come out about what they're planning with that game. Much more interesting, I'll have to say, than a lot of previous Pokemon news, but we'll get deep into that. And lastly, Sony recently had a State of Play. It wasn't one of their biggest ones because they didn't focus on like their first party stuff. Oh, sorry, there's like so started watching the trailer, I think. But Sony's focused on more of their VR stuff, like the PlayStation VR 2, which is coming soonish. I don't know if they actually released a date. I can't remember now. And also a bunch of third-party partners. But we'll get into how that trailer struck us. And speaking of us, Rachel Kaiser's here today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I'm a writer for GamesBeat. And yeah, you know who I am by now, I think.
Yeah, I think they're all Rachel fans by now. Superman Jeff.
Yep.
As always. And the Fat Stacks is joining us.
What's going on, y'all?
Welcome, everybody. So let's get right into it. We have a lot to talk about. So I don't know. Do you guys have any games and stuff that you've been itching to talk about, or do you want to just jump into the actual topics?
I'm good with just jumping in.
Yeah, I'm good with jumping in.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. So it's been a while since we've had like a wealth of news. I know the shows have been going long for the past couple of weeks despite that, but yeah, let's just get right into it. So we'll start with Sonic Frontiers. First off, is anybody here like a big Sonic fan?
I enjoyed Sonic when it was on Sega Genesis. Some of my first gaming moments would have been Sonic 2, fighting like Metal Sonic and stuff like that, and having the Knuckles cartridge, and then going back and replaying those games with the Knuckles cartridge, or like stuff like that. So I think I even played the one on Dreamcast, but kind of after that, it kind of just went downhill. I think that was Sonic Adventures.
Sonic Adventure
1
and Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah,
was because that one got a GameCube port later because the Dreamcast, was not fated to last very long.
But it kind of went downhill after that. But I do like Sonic was probably one of the first games I played, which kind of on the Sega Genesis, which got me into gaming. So.
Okay, so now seeing this new trailer that's attempting to bring Sonic into kind of the open world realm, like Adventure was kind of its step into 3D after the regular Genesis ones. Like this one is trying to evolve the formula again. Like, what did you take? Like, did this give you any hope in terms of being like a person who grew up with Sonic?
It did. It looks a lot better. I like the standoff. Like I like the camera. Like it's not so much like almost behind his back, like some of the other games. This one's kind of more standoff. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Phantasy Star Online's camera. Like even the way the world looks a little bit like Phantasy Star Online New Genesis. It definitely looks like that. So it does look good. I'm also interested in the story because the story's always been very, very, not always, but as of recently, very mediocre. Like he had like a romantic relationship with like this human girl, like in the other one. Like it was just weird. So I'm hoping because Sonic is interesting. Like a lot of the characters that are in that world, like there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah, like the Archie comics that feature Sonic apparently like do really well and have like really like interesting character moments and like story beats. Like the feats that Sonic produces in that comic are like some of like the best speed feats in comics period. Like he's like on par with Flash in those comics apparently.
Oh wow.
But yeah, outside of that, yeah, the game stuff is really forgettable and just dumb, honestly.
Yeah. It's just they never were able to find a footing in the 3D after Sonic Adventures 2. Like after that, they just kind of started doing a bunch of like different things to see what would stick, and just nothing was sticking. I do like the combat in the new one though. I do love him not just using his speed and running into things, but also kicking and punching, and it kind of definitely reminds me of like the Sonic on Smash Brothers.
Okay, yeah. All right. Anybody else have strong feelings one way or the other about this Sonic trailer?
I don't know. It looks almost like I don't know how I feel about the fact that the world is so, I guess, realistic and Sonic is still really stylized. It
Yeah.
feels like I understand that that in and of itself is a choice, but it feels like not enough was done to sort of mesh the world and Sonic. So, I mean, I get that. I think the intention is to make him look like he was plopped into a world that he doesn't belong in, but I feel like that's just gonna, after a while, it starts to go, the eyes don't accept it. My brain will not accept what I'm looking at somehow. It's
Uh
like
huh.
it's like some weird uncanny valley effect.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point to bring up because one of the main things that I've seen and that I felt as well about that trailer is that it looks like a tech demo. Like it looks like the way someone who gets their hand on like Unreal Engine 5, for example, starts playing around in it. Like, oh, let me drop Superman in the city that they built, right?
Yeah,
Like, because we've all seen that demo. It's like, oh, this is what I would want a Superman game to sort of feel like, but it's really just a very tiny slice of mechanics in a world. This looks
right.
like, oh, I want Sonic stuff in a world that looks like this. So let's put a Sonic character model. And honestly, the way Sonic looks, he looks more like Sonic than any. Uh, like it's literally just the Sonic model, like from the art on like the box, like where he does that famous pose where like his hand is behind his leg or whatever. It
Mhm.
looks exactly like that Sonic, and I think that's in line with how they didn't want anything close to the backlash of Ugly Sonic from the movie's first trailer. Yeah, like I think that's what they were like. We just make Sonic look like how everyone wants Sonic to look, and then we'll do everything else. Like so, like they built this world, I guess, that looks photorealistic, but they kept Sonic the same because of that fear. Like
Right.
that's the vibe I
Yeah.
get.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it causes other problems, I think, sometimes, is because, like you said, this seems like a photoreal world. It does look like it was made in an engine designed to render that kind of world. The lighting as well is also, that was my main problem, actually, when I saw the trailers, especially when you look at the combat trailer. Like, a lot of the times when Sonic is using attacks and the camera's focused on him, he's completely in shadow because direct sunlight is coming from a different angle in the camera. So you're
Hmm.
basically looking at like a completely shadowed Sonic, kicking and punching, enemy whatever in the middle of this, beautiful sun-drenched open field. It's just a weird choice. Like the lighting and the photorealism are what's really, I know in a Sonic trailer that's not what I expected to talk about, but yeah, it's just completely throwing me off.
It definitely looks
Okay.
like new Fantasy Star Online New Genesis. Like the whole world, even the enemies look like false. Like they definitely look like Fantasy Star Online.
I mean, it is the same dev
It
team, right? Like
is.
this
I
is
feel
still
like they
Sonic
just
team.
they took some of the
Like
properties and just plopped it over.
maybe
It
so
does look
just
like
some
it,
leftover assets.
especially if you look at uh,
Mhm.
New Genesis. Like it definitely looks like that. So, and when is this game set to release?
I didn't see a release date.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I don't
Okay.
didn't
know
see
if
a
a
release.
date was given.
So that gives me a little bit more hope that they have a lot more time to polish it and clean it up. But I think it's on the right track as far as like the way I would want Sonic to work. Like even like you see his moves, like he ran like a ring around something and connected the ring, and that was like some type of like
Yeah, it was like a little
ability.
puzzle thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm okay with that. I
I
mean,
Mhm.
it's not.
mean,
Yeah, go ahead, Fast X.
no, I was gonna say like for me, like all right, I see this trend. I'm like, all right, how are you going to? I'm so used to watching a 2D Sonic. I mean, Sega Sonic is pretty much all I know, and I have seen the Dreamcast, the GameCube. I really haven't played those, but I've seen gameplay on them, and it seems to me personally like a lot of these games want to go like open world. Doesn't matter what the character is, they want to try to put them in a open world setting to give a better feel, trying to shift the dynamic per se, of the games. But when it comes to Sonic, I'm so used to him. You start at one part and there's an ending right there. open world, it, to me, is a kind of unique taste for Sonic. And the only reason why I'm saying this, like, you watch the Sonic movies, right? You play the Sonic games. Now you have an open world Sonic. Your storyline, what is it going to be like? Is it going to be like you're going to go around some of these areas and find the emeralds? Are you going to turn into Super Sonic? Are you going to allow other characters to come in? Your NPCs? Like, what is it? I mean, yeah, I saw
like what is the game, right?
Yeah, like the fighting and all that is it's whatever. But how are you gonna incorporate an open world Sonic with a storyline with the characters from, you know, everything else, trying to bring it into you know, to me, certain games shouldn't be an open world, I guess. But it's a good try to see where it goes. You know what I mean? So
No, yeah,
You guess the same thing could have been said about Mario back in the day. Like nobody would have, if it's done right, no one will say anything. But when it's done wrong for so long, you're like, you know what? Maybe you should just give up on open world and just stick to like, you know, just a 2D thing.
Is there an open world Mario game though?
but there is no.
In an instance, it's open world. You know what I mean? Like Mario 64 was open world esque, and Sonic has always been.
I wouldn't call.
I feel like it is because like you can almost go anywhere. There's loading screens and stuff, but you know what I'm saying? It's 3D.
It's definitely hubs. Like it's not open world in the sense that we understand open worlds today. Like GTA is the blueprint for open world, where like the city is there and you can literally go from one point to yeah. So, and Mario hasn't strayed from that. Like Zelda went open world for sure. Mario, even Zelda, Odyssey, is still a bunch of hubs. Even the hubs got bigger, but they're still like interconnected hubs. I get exactly what you're saying, Fast Axe, is that in that Sonic gameplay, like whatever it is you want about from Sonic, it's at its heart a platformer. It's supposed to be a very speedy one, but it's still a platformer. Have we seen a platformer, like a core platformer, that works in a big open world?
I think honestly, getting away from that. They're getting away from the whole platform thing as well. You can tell, like most.
So what is Sonic then? So what? Because that's I think that's what Fast Axe was getting at. Like, what is this game?
There's no story yet. Because remember, there was a bunch of like in Sonic in the last couple games, a bunch of ramps. You're running through stuff. You're jumping over stuff. You're avoiding traps. Like you hit those little ball things that flick around. Like it's just a bunch of that. Like that's what the game was. That's what it is. Like whether you were on like a. They had like one where it was like, you know, they were on like hoverboards or something like that. That was one of the games or something like that.
I think that was that like a racing game?
I don't know. They were on something, but like they definitely you don't see that right now. Right now it's just open world. You know, in the vein of like. Yeah, I mean, like they're showing off, like, hey, look, it's Sonic in an open world, and like, I don't think that's enough to get people actually excited. And I've seen like a lot of the reception has been pretty lukewarm. Even from like big Sonic fans, like even the ones who like love Sonic, like they're still like, oh, I don't think the trailers were great, but I'm still excited because the idea, at least, of Sonic in an open world is exciting for them as fans. But like what they've shown doesn't really show what you'll be doing. Like we know Sonic grinds on rails, we know Sonic runs fast, we know Sonic can do a loop-de-loop. So like they put those things in a big ass map, but like. Is it a playground? Like, is it a skate park? Like, what? Well,
something that would be similar to that. I mean, yeah, we don't have too much information, but those are the things I've been thinking about when I first saw it. I'm like, okay, so how are you really going to turn this into an open world just from what you have, storyline and everything? But if you look at Crash Bandicoot and how linear Crash Bandicoot is, could you take Crash Bandicoot and put it in an open? Because it's similar, Crash Bandicoot and Sonic. In certain ways, could you do that to Crash Bandicoot in an open world?
Like that's the thing, like, because that's also a platformer. Yeah. I cannot for the life of me think of a game that its mechanics are based around platforming that is just an open world game.
Well, how do you feel about Metroid jumping from being a Metroidvania to jumping to, was it Metroid Prime?
Well, I never finished any of the Metroid Prime games, but I did bounce off the first one.
Exposed twice. You didn't finish Metroid. You didn't finish Ninja Gaiden.
I don't know how I've been exposed. I've said this multiple times before.
I would argue that Metroid Prime is still a Metroidvania.
Well, I mean, as far as being more, you take a 2D character where you're side-scrolling and put them in a 3D world. to where they're now exploring a semi-open world. Because with Metroid Prime, you were able to, there wasn't just a straight and narrow path, and this character wasn't just you see
But
a side
Metroid's never been a
profile.
straight path. Like it was 2D, yes, but it was
You know
always
what I
like a
mean?
winding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, like as far as like you take a 2D character and you pluck it into like the 3D world to where they essentially like stick out a lot more.
But you know what though? Metroid can be the very exception like Zelda is. Metroid it can be an open world. It can actually Metroid can be an MMO if you wanted to. But Metroid
You need MMOs.
but I'm just saying, if you look at the story of Metroid and what Metroid has to bring, you can put Metroid in an open world and it would work, just like Zelda.
Because Metroid is one an exploration game and two
Right.
kind of an action shooter. Like there are instances of that working in an open world. Like,
So you know,
and
but
someone in chat mentioned Mirror's Edge. Lampy did Mirror's Edge as a open world platforming game.
oh, I guess maybe the second Mirror's Edge game. The first one wasn't an open world.
Yeah, the first one was not open world; it was kind of linear sections. And people really didn't like the second one.
I didn't
all
like
that
the
much.
second.
Yeah, so like that kind of proves the point there.
Yeah.
That like if platforming, because that's the thing, right? We need to know what else is in this Sonic game in terms of mechanics. Because if it is just platforming, an open world doesn't really help that. You need kind of more cordoned off sections to explore those mechanics. Like, and I think that would work really well for a Sonic. Like, I wrote a whole thing after reviewing Ali Ali from Roll 7. We'll talk more about Roll 7 later because they had a game in the Sony State of Play. But they did Ali Ali World, which to me is what a Sonic game should have been, because it's very fast paced. You're on a skateboard, and the thing is, you continue your momentum and your speed by literally seeing what's on screen and reacting to it. Like, oh, if this is a rail, I need to grind it. If this is a jump, I need to do tricks and land perfectly by doing another input. If Sonic acted like that, where like, oh, you need to press certain buttons to do certain actions when you see a certain thing show up, it would be way more engaging than whatever this is, where he's kind of moving at like, you know, mid level speed to run circles around a little puzzle thing. Like he's doing like this little weird snake puzzle on the ground in one of these. Like, it's just, is this what you want Sonic to do? Like, Sonic is supposed to be like this speedy, actiony, attitude-y character, and like he's kind of just meandering around this super empty world, and I don't.
Well,
it just
then-
looks boring.
Well, we don't have a release date. It's very, very, very early since they even announced it. So it's probably just showing you, just teasing kind of what's going on. We've seen instances where Sonic is more than just a platformer. What was the one game, the show on Channel 5, was it Sonic Adventures or something like that, with the girl Sally, and he was like freedom fighters and stuff like that, and they were like in the woods, and he kind of went around that whole world. So
I do
we've
remember that
seen
show. I think that's actually
instances-
on Netflix right now.
Yeah, we've seen instances, and it's on Prime, I think, too. We've seen instances where there's more than just platforming going on. If there's some type of story where, you know, they're trying to take down Robotnik, obviously, because it's always Robotnik. He's kind of like taking over this area, kidnapped the queen, because somebody always gets kidnapped. It's something, princess, you know, a sorcerer. Somebody gets kidnapped in all these games, and the heroes always has to save them. So there's something going on. That could be a great story. But the traditional story where he's transported to another world and he has to help the humans somehow, like, I feel like that's played out. Let's just keep him within that animalistic world where there's other animalistic beings, because you're going to have to populate that world. It can't just be open with enemies and that's it. You're going to need some NPCs and stuff like that. So I think that would be, if it kind of followed, it's not going to follow it exactly, but if it followed some of the same beats of the TV show, I think that would help kind of bring it to life. Because the movie doesn't leave much that would help translate over. I think they're definitely trying to go off the popularity of the movie, because it's been so, the last two have been so popular. You try to get a new generation into it. And what a new generation like? They like open world. So let's get an open world. Let's populate it. Let's make sure it's a good story. And I think it'll do well. We
So
probably
you're putting a lot of stock in like a narrative here.
let's hope. Let's hope.
you're hoping, because I don't feel like, I have zero hope for like a Sonic story being like actually good. Like, if it exists, fine, but I I have no delusions of thinking that it's going to be a good story, but I'm more so worried about the gameplay, like just what do you do moment to moment? Because like the story is whatever for a Sonic game. Like if it ends up being fun, because I've always wanted to just run or just move super fast in a video game. Like I just love that as a thing, right? And Sonic has the potential to do that. So like, are they gonna do that? I don't know. It just like these early trailers, yeah, it's very early on. They're maybe just showing you like what the game looks like, but it's not a good look. Like it's not a look that got me excited for whatever this new Sonic is.
I think as well that there are certain areas. It looks like there is an open world where they have designated areas for Sonic to do Sonic stuff, which I don't. I feel like it could have been integrated a little more organically into the world. It's sort of like, yes, Sonic can run between different points, but there are specific points where there are ramps he can use and rails he can grind on. It's like I really think that could have been integrated a little bit better into the world. Otherwise, I think somebody in chat mentioned it just looks like a giant skate park.
Yeah, like they were like even like the rails and stuff, like you could see them like just kind of just floating in the air in the distance. Like they didn't it looks so it looks like a test environment. Like let's just play around with Sonic mechanics in this prefabricated open world environment. Like
Yeah, it
I don't
definitely
know.
looks test. It does definitely looks like a test area. It doesn't look like it's obviously, close to being anything as a finished product. But the thing that like I said, the thing that sticks out to me is it's more than just running around through like a almost like amusement park type area, running through like avoiding traps and jumping and stuff like that. You're actually seeing some combat. You're seeing his speed utilized, like the same way, like you said, the Flash utilizes his, like running super fast around something to create almost like a tornado around it, stuff like that. So I see some sunlight, but they do have a lot more work to do. Especially, you can't have a Sonic open world that's not a lot more populated than what it is.
Well, you'd have to throw like a city in there somewhere,
Right.
not just if you're gonna do
How
quests.
what's he gonna escape from if there's no city?
Right, like like have quests or something like that. If you're gonna have an open world, have a city he goes to, you can do certain things in the city or whatever. I mean, like I said, it's my opinion. Like I said earlier, with how are you going to, when it comes to story, when it comes to the other things other than just the open world and this and that, like how you really going to incorporate Sonic into an open world game? Like I said, if you're gonna do it with emeralds, you're trying to find emeralds, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, you know what I mean? And obviously if you have certain effects, because you can't have Sonic without having Supersonic or a way of turning into Supersonic. It's the whole point of Sonic anyway. Half the time is when he gets all the emeralds and goes Supersonic, you know what I mean? And you go around and you do whatever. That's just me though.
And then there's going to be a skill tree. You can an open world game always has a character
Some type of
with
skill tree, yeah.
skill tree.
Yeah, there's just the whole checklist of just
Yeah,
what are video games today? It's the skill tree, it's crafting, it's open world. Like you're right. It'll probably all be in there.
Some new skins for Sonic. You know what I'm saying? Go find some new skins. Dress them how you want. Rocker Sonic. It definitely is blank. It definitely is void of as much life as it should have. In that world, there's lush green plains and trees, but we don't see any animals. So it is a worry for that. But there's a small light, like I said. If this is a starting point and we're still like a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years off, then I could see that becoming something eventually that could be, a good Sonic game and a long list of bad ones.
Well, their original projected release date was sometime in 2022. They're not going to release it in 2022. Will almost I'd bet my life on that. But I really don't. That's my problem, Jeff. I don't really think it's 2-3 years out. I think they want this to come out earlier than that, so that they can strike while the Sonic movie iron is hot, like you said.
Right. And this is Sonic Team we're talking about. It's not like it's a new team that got their hands on this IP. Sonic Team has been dropping the ball for years now. Just because it's in a brand new environment, I don't really see them all of a sudden getting all these things right that they've somehow refused, it seems like, to get right for years and years now. So like, I just don't see it, but I do want to try it.
Right.
Like I'm curious enough to want to play this whenever it does come out.
And I think
To see how bad it turns out to be, because I do predict it's probably going to be bad. I'll be honest.
In past games too, they've been like trying to force stuff out as fast as possible, and we've seen that not work time and time again for a lot of franchises. Like Assassin's Creed got pretty stale over time because we're just trying to get that one game out every year. Sometimes taking some time off, having some delays, pushing a game back. In this day and age, where we have games get rushed out and they're not finished and they bomb because of that, take your time, flush the game out, create a solid piece of medium, send it out, and people will buy it.
Especially if it has Sonic in the title, because the thing is, people buy these Sonic games regardless of all that.
Right,
regardless of all these quality problems, people still buy the Sonic games. So that's probably the main reason why they don't take the time to do anything to actually improve it. But any last thoughts on the Sonic stuff before we move on? Nope. All right. Let's go to our next trailer. More colorful, furry action here. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Basically, we got a bunch of info in a bunch of different places, but we got a big trailer reveal. We saw the new professors. We saw the new legendaries. We got information about new features, like 4-player multiplayer, open world environment. Again, with the open world stuff. But this is a game that I think actually benefits from that, right? Like something that the community been crying for a long time. We kind of got pump faked with Sword and Shield. Like they pretended that it was an open world, and it was like, oh, it's very linear. And there's one section is where you can kind of have some open world like stuff, and then it just wasn't. That was followed up by Legends Arceus, which did have a true open world, but they kind of stripped out all the other gameplay stuff so that you really just had the open world and the Pokemon collection, which apparently a lot of people seem to like. I wasn't on board for it, Jeff. I think you also were kind of like lukewarm on it. They took out the multiplayer stuff as well. But I don't know, this Scarlet and Violet seems like they're putting everything back in. And I've been really down on Pokemon since Sword and Shield because I felt duped by that. But to be honest, this one seems like they're finally trying something new. So I don't know. I'm still a little anxious, but I don't know. Could this be the Pokemon that does the Pokemon thing that we want it to do? I don't know. What do you guys take?
Are you considering buying it? That's my question for you.
I mean, I am considering it. I do want to see more, but like what they've shown so far all seems like, okay, they're actually trying something new here.
I'm surprised. I'm really surprised because you're pretty much giving up on.
I did, but it's because of what they were putting into the series. Like you're not gonna get me to keep buying the same game that you keep making the same mistake for. I'm like, hey, do this. They don't do that, so I'm not gonna buy it. But I don't know, like what's going on with this one?
They test a lot of stuff. We had Sword and Shield, and it's like, oh well, this is like a test. It's almost like a beta. Let's send this out, and then we do Arceus, where we try some other stuff we wanted to try, but in a single player setting. And now you know what? Now we're gonna put it all together, and then add all the stuff that we should have added from the beginning into this next game. That's how we get you. We test some stuff. Oh, it looks good. Open world, yeah, we go and get it. It's not truly open world. Arceus looks amazing. It's open world, this and that, but we took out all the stuff. Pokemon is Pokemon battling. Yes, gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all.
I think that's I don't think the battling is Pokemon. I think that's
to me. When I was watching the cartoon, only reason Ash was catching all these Pokemon was because he wanted to be a Pokemon master. And I didn't tell him being the best Pokemon trainer. How are you the best Pokemon trainer? Beating the other guy. That's how we determine that. If you're losing, like if you guys are the best of friends and you're training on a daily basis, but you're losing every match, you're not gonna be a Pokemon master. That's just like that goes against all the requirements to be a Pokemon master.
That's not what Ash taught us.
That is what Ash taught me. 25 years later, he became a Pokemon master. But
yeah, no, I see what you mean.
A 4-player open world co-op. Not only just battling each other, you can travel the world together in that game. Like you can explore in the same instance, and I think that's big for a Nintendo game. Having 4 people in the same world. I'm just worried that you're confined to a certain area with those 4 people in your game. That is my only concern. Like if there's 4 people, like Dark Souls, where they kind of like fog off
Right.
a certain area to where you can't go. Even in Elden Ring, they do that. They fog off a certain distance so you can't go too far from the person you're with. So that's my only concern, that they might be kind of like, oh yeah, this 4-player co-op, but only in a set area. When
Yeah,
you
like
go
it's
into
very
places.
limited and
Right.
whatnot. Like from the trailer, it looked like the 4 people were in different areas. So like it does seem promising in that regard. But this is Nintendo we're talking about, or well, it's Game Freak, but Game Freak has also not been great in terms of this stuff, and Nintendo is their BFFs right now. Yeah, I am worried that it won't be the kind of 4-player co-op we have in our heads. Like there'll be some kind of caveat, but this is definitely better than what they've been giving us before. It seems like.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. If they take what happened in Sword and Shield, then it needs to be truly open world. Add the stuff from Arceus, which is pretty cool because, like the Pokemon Ash pointed out, you can do different stuff. You can aggro them. They would get angry and attack you. Remember that? How many times that
Yeah,
happened to Ash? And Onyx would just go crazy and pop out the ground and be chasing him or stuff like that. Like that stuff was cool. Those interactions are very cool. They're cool things to see happen in the world. Put that into an open world where you can battle and do stuff like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Obviously, trainer customization. It was in Sword and Shield, but to a very limit. Like you could do some things, but like there weren't many clothes. There weren't much you could do. Like the hair was like a couple of hairs. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be able to fully customize my trainer and do what I want. So I think that if they put all those things together, which it does hopefully look like they're doing, I think it'll be a very good game. I've been trying to battle the fake Ash for a long
the
time.
fake Ash Redux is the fake
Yeah.
Ash. Yeah, he's in the chat right now. How about you, Fast X? Any thoughts on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet?
To me, sometimes I think they purposely do that stuff to draw money out of people, like kind of like Madden, like because when I look at Pokemon, right, and I look at things a little differently when it comes to certain games. I look at Pokemon as a possible you buy one game and a whole bunch of DLCs if it's done right.
Right. Games.
You know what I mean? Like, there's really no reason to have a whole bunch of Pokemon games. Obviously, as systems evolve, the game evolves. So, you call the game Pokemon, but you have DLCs. You adjust certain things. Hey, this open world, you do this, and this. We're going to add this, and this. We're going to add these Pokemon down the line, this, and this. You know what I mean? Like, it's a possibility to do that, but obviously money is a different story. So they're going to try to draw out so much and do this and do that in this game and leave certain things out. Oh, they want this in this game. All right. So then, then they do this and this, and then they just go further. And you're never really going to get a complete what you want per se all the time. They might not do that. They might always leave something out and then put it in the next one. You know what I mean? But just my personal opinion, like you could just have one Pokemon game and just have everything. That's just my
that would
opinion.
definitely be easier on consumers. But on that note, this is the first, I believe, Pokemon game where the professor is different across the games. Like you get different professors. And funny story about these professors. The internet is getting kind of hot and bothered about the looks of both these professors. I actually have pictures up that I'm gonna put on the stream.
They know that their audience is, it's not elementary school kids anymore. The
Right.
primary people buying Pokemon games are the ones who used to be elementary school kids and have now grown up into 20, 30-something-year-old adults who
Right.
find, these professors attractive.
But to be fair, they did kind of go off on these professors. Like they gave.
They don't do no justice.
Right, Oak looking like your old fuddy duddy grandpa. Like
Right.
this dude got a full beard, like the shaved sides of the head. Like, come on
Right.
now. Also, but the main thing is that they seem to represent like very different like ideologies. Like the games tend to like always be like opposing forces or at least related forces. Scarlet and Violet are just colors, but like they seem to be going with this sort of prehistoric and futuristic motif. I'm I'm wondering how that will translate into gameplay at all, or will it be more of the same, where like the both versions of the game are pretty much the exact same thing, and then the only difference will be the professors that you're talking to. Like, was there any hint of differences in that way, and would something like that be exciting to you guys if you were going to be picking this up?
It would make it more likely that people might get both versions. As opposed before, it used to be where the only difference mainly was certain Pokemon were available in this game that weren't available in that game. Maybe like a handful. If it's a different story and a different take on it, that might, because sometimes they'll come up like a 2-pack where it'd be like, not double the price, but like a little less than what 2 times the individual game would cost. So more people are more likely to get it. If there's 2 different stories in each one, that might make it more likely that people would play both. I've never considered getting both, because you can always trade to get whatever Pokemon you're missing from that game.
Like, that's supposed to be the idea behind it. Like,
Right.
these guys get this one, these guys get that one, and then they can interact by trading and whatnot.
I mean, I had the idea that my initial thought was that they're called Scarlet and Violet because, like, Scarlet and Violet are like different opposite ends of the color spectrum. Not technically speaking, that's not like strictly accurate, but just an idea. It's like they're at the opposite ends. You got, and now that you mentioned that there is a sort of like past versus future thing, I'm kind of thinking like opposite ends of a spectrum of time or something like that. Maybe as a motif.
Yeah.
Oh God, did I just crack the code?
No, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just, how does that work as a motif? And honestly, have any of the other Pokemon games used their motif at all? Like, was there anything that had to do with Gold and Silver in Gold and Silver? Did anything have to do with X and Y or Black and White? Like, it was just kind of a conventional Pokemon game, right? Like,
Black
this seems
and
like
White was more towards the legendaries. Rashima was like all white, and then
the legendaries are pictured here as well. They also
Yeah.
fit this motif. Like, one of them apparently is kind of more archaic, and one is super, and one is like very digitized.
Yeah,
That's usually what they're
futuristic.
going for. Is a lot of times it reflects the legendaries, like Sword and Shield reflected the 2 legendaries. One had like the wolf shield or whatever.
Right,
it was,
yeah,
and
like
Sword.
and it was okay. So yeah, it's really just about the Pokemon, the legendary Pokemon, and not necessarily you as the trainer or the world that you're in, right? Which I guess is fair.
Fair, yeah.
Like you
looking
said,
over-
Sun and Moon did in terms of kind of emphasizing the theme, and I guess that's right because Sun and Moon had like different evolutions based on what, like suns and moons. Is that right?
That was in the Alola
Yeah, that Alola region.
and the same thing that could be going to the legendaries too, because Solus was you can tell he embodied the sun, and the other one, Lunara, whatever it is, looked like a moon bat. So that could kind of go that way too. So, but it would be, I think each version definitely should be different. Like, I mean, like as far as like story, like you said, if it's like one's more focused on prehistoric, the other one's more focused on the future, that could be something like that makes it different enough to where it would justify getting both copies a little bit more.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm wondering if there's anything else to pick out from this information. I don't want to like miss anything in regards to like what they revealed.
Are we going to talk about LeChonk?
Yeah, go right ahead. The internet also went crazy for a new pig Pokemon.
Well, I mean,
It's called
Roadhog,
LeChonk.
the evolution of Roadhog or DM. I seen that. I was like, oh my gosh, that is just that couldn't be much a perfect meme right there.
They know. That's why. That's one of the
Right
reasons
off the
why I'm
bat.
saying they know exactly what they're doing with the designs of the professors. They know their audience. They know the internet. They know how to tap us.
Right.
Yeah, I forget his name, unfortunately. But another interesting development is this is the first Pokemon game that does not have the input of one of the founders of Game Freak, who recently left like the creation team and like is in a higher position in the company proper. So like he's more of an overseer of like Pokemon in general versus like being a creative director on the games, because he's been in charge of the games from beginning up until this one. So this game is apparently the first one that has kind of a younger team that's at the helm. And I think that might be why we're starting to see some of these changes. Like with, the look of the professors, the naming conventions that people are laughing about.
Okay.
And maybe more focus on multiplayer, whatnot, which to me is very exciting. Like, yes, like let the old guard take a rest. Like, let's start getting innovative with this super popular, very safe playing franchise. Like it's played its hand very safe for very long. I don't know. Like I might get this Pokemon game if it comes out and if all these features seem to actually be present without all the caveats that I'm expecting from a Pokemon series. So I don't know. I'm a little more excited than I expected to be for a Pokemon announcement, but that's just me. I don't know if you guys are in that boat or not.
I'm surprised. I'm super surprised. Yeah, I beat you that one time. And you never played Sword and Shield again. I was just like,
I'm pretty sure we've never battled Pokemon. I don't think I've battled anyone in Pokemon in several years. But okay, we'll move on from Pokemon stuff and get into the meat of today's show. Sony's recent state of play. They said that they would not focus on first-party titles, so we didn't get any announcements about like God of War. But they did say that they will focus on PlayStation VR stuff, and there's some news on some of their first-party stuff in that realm. So I actually did a watch along on Escapist with Marty and Jamate. So a lot of my thoughts immediately after are out there. So I really want to take this opportunity to kind of ask you guys what you felt about the PlayStation state of play. And we can just go down the list, if I have that up here, of like all the stuff that was there. But feel free to jump around. Like whatever you are most excited about or you want to comment on first, feel free to kind of just jump in and let us know how you felt about it.
The Resident Evil 4 looked probably the most interesting thing to me. I never played 4, so this remake does look really good. And when they usually do a remake for Resident Evil, they definitely go all in. I played
like 2 and
E3,
3 were pretty amazing. Like I'm not a Resident Evil fan, but those games looked fantastic and people seem to like them a lot.
I am.
Okay, so how was 4's reveal?
Actually, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to be the first one to like, oh God, guys, Resident Evil 4 remake is here. But no, we've known they were working on it for a while, and I will say we didn't see much in the trailer. They didn't actually show much of the actual, and I'm pretty sure what we saw was not actual gameplay footage. But well, first of all, I noticed that I'm pretty sure that's Ada in the trailer that you see running around in the red. I noticed she swapped that beautiful Chong Sam she was wearing for something a bit more practical, which is kind of what these remakes have been doing all along. It's like, let's not put Claire in those tight little red shorts. Let's give her some actual pants to wear.
Right.
Just swapping things out for a little more. Again, with Jill, she's not wearing a mini skirt anymore. So we're continuing in that vein. And I'm like, well, we're removing a little bit of the absurdity, but you know what? We're making things easier for the cosplayers. So I'm not going to complain too much. But the only nitpick I've ever had with Resident Evil 4, which I still think is the best in the series, is that it in atmosphere and design, especially color palette, it's always been very separate from the rest of the series. It doesn't share any visual except for the mansion bits, it doesn't really share any visual similarities with the rest of the series. And here where it looks like they're going for a look that is very similar to Resident Evil 7 and Village. So it's a little bit of consistency, which I appreciate. Again, I'm pretty sure what we saw we're not going to see in the final game. But I am curious to see how they improve upon the design.
Okay. I bounced off of Resident Evil 4 probably more times than any other Resident Evil game I played. Like I played 2 all the way through, but that's because early on I put in an invincibility code and just had all the weapons and just ran through it for the story. Because I don't have fun playing Resident Evil games, and 4 was no different. And I tried it 3 times because it's so well loved by the gaming world. I just couldn't get into it. But here we are again. Resident Evil 4 is gonna be back. It's gonna be modernized. I feel like I should give it another shot whenever that comes out. Because maybe the updated controls and fidelity will somehow get this to resonate with me. But let's not hold our breath, I guess.
Respect.
I've always been a big Resident Evil fan, but I haven't really played. I mean, I haven't really played since Operation Raccoon City. For those who don't know, Operation Raccoon City is
Does
one
that
of
count?
no, I mean just for PvP for me. I like the PvP segment of Operation Raccoon City. The last I played was 3, I believe, but I always loved 2. Resident Evil 2 was, I think for me, was the best Resident Evil, in my opinion, with Nemesis. It's just...
Resident Evil 3 was the one with Nemesis.
Was it 3? Okay. So then, yeah, the one with Nemesis in it was always like with him, because I'd always play the game in complete darkness. So whenever you hear him in your headphones, like the hair just stands up on the back of your neck. You know what I mean? Like in the complete dark. But like I've seen some of the gameplay, like the village and everything. Like it looks real clean. But I haven't played since like way back, like the old PlayStation stuff. But I do like the graphics and the new stuff though. But just watching other people play it, you know, it does look very clean, very nice. You know, like you said, they always put their efforts in, especially modernizing the Resident Evil look. You know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate a good looking game.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But all right, Resident Evil got the hearts going.
Also, Village is coming to VR, so we're gonna get to see Lady
Right.
Dimitrescu in VR. That's gonna be a trip.
Yeah, you get to break your neck staring up at that vampire lady.
I actually
Right.
also streamed a reaction to it, and I gotta say, if, as always with Resident Evil Village, if you were to just watch the trailers, you'd think Lady D's mansion was the entire game, because that's all they choose to focus on.
That is all they show. Yeah.
But I don't know if they're doing the entire game in VR or just the Lady Dimitrescu part. But either way, it seems like it's a fun, you know, little extra. But it's not quite. It doesn't look like it's a big game announcement. It's more like just, hey, we're doing this fun thing with Resident Evil Village, and I'm okay with that.
Like the previous game was fully playable in their previous PlayStation VR, right? Like Resident Evil 7, like you could play that completely in VR.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'd imagine they'd just do the same thing with 8, especially since they have better hardware now to show it off. So
That's true. Yeah.
but yeah, that might be interesting. Not interested though. I do not want to play a Resident Evil game in VR. I have no desire to do that. Stray. How are people's feelings about this kind of cat adventure game?
I saw that. I was like,
Post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world. You're into this, Rachel?
I'm into it. It's something that we haven't. It's sort of like the exact opposite of Resident Evil 4. It's something that is not like anything I've seen before. It's like we not only have a post-apocalyptic world, it's a robot-populated world as well. But it's not focusing on those characters. I like games where it takes place in a kind of post-apocalyptic is like giving it a little too much. Is like maybe overdoing it a little too much. It looks like it's a post-human society, but we're not
Human
focusing.
apocalypse.
We're not focusing on how society got into that state. We're not interested in explaining, oh, why is the world populated by robots? Like, no, let's just focus on what a cat's doing in the middle of all this.
Yeah, like that's what is most intriguing to me is that setting, and the interesting way that we are going to get to explore that setting is just from this cat's perspective. Like gameplay wise, though, I will say like it hasn't really grabbed me. Like I don't see kind of what is fun about being the cat so much. Like it's novel for sure, like being able to like run around and jump around, and like kind of parkour a little bit. But is that engaging as a gameplay mechanic? I don't know. But honestly, like the strength of the setting might be all they're really going for here. And for something like this, I'm sure it's enough, especially since this is going to be part of their PlayStation Plus subscription service. So like you're not going to have to plump down, straight up money for this if you're subscribed to that service. So this is the kind of experience that Game Pass has really let shine by just having it be accessible to people who want to try it and are intrigued without wanting to spend a ton of money. So like I want to see what this game is about. It's also coming to PC though, just in case anyone.
It does look like it might be stealth. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it looks like a. Oh.
No, go ahead. Ladies first. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like a stealth game, which I think, I'm really big into stealth games. So I agree, it is hard to say from the from the trailer that we saw, which is mostly about, I think, showing off the world and the protagonist place in it, as opposed to like what gameplay is like. But it looks stealthy, and I like that.
It definitely looks stealthy. It reminds me of the stealth that's going to be in that Golem game coming out.
That's still coming.
It's still coming.
They still trying to do that.
They're still doing the Smeagol game. And also, I think it's pretty cool. They're using the same cat from the Bodega cat from Miles Morales.
It's just that exact cat.
Spider-Man the cat.
That's what he made his debut in, and I guess his career's kind of like skyrocketed. It's ever since then.
Right?
So,
Yeah. Good on him.
Got his own game.
His agent is really pulling through for that cat.
It is. It's interesting to see some of these games where you can see it from a different perspective, and when it comes to, when I look at this game, I was like, oh man, obviously it's different from, like being able to play a shark, man-eater, play a goose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Playing apes, that one ape game.
Playing a deer.
And a deer, yeah. So it's always interesting to see the development of these games, playing it from, an animal perspective. And the game does look, like I said, the way how the games are now being developed, just the sheer beauty of watching the gameplay sometimes is, for me, just watching the gameplay. So, especially with Game Pass, like you just said, that makes it accessible without, it's like, do I really have to pay money for this if I can just, try it out for free, a little something, by having Game Pass is definitely the plus.
Well, PlayStation Plus, like this
PlayStation Plus,
PlayStation Plus, Sony's version, and PC. But speaking of coming to PC, everybody's favorite Spider-Man is going to be making his way via PC port.
That's good for PC, but I'm less excited about the announcement because they announced the. Did it have was it remastered collection?
Yeah, I think there's a remaster that hit PS5.
Okay.
So the remastered version that has all the DLC and stuff, that's the one that's coming to PC now.
Yeah. So.
And apparently also Miles Morales is coming. And for some reason, it was not at all mentioned in the state of play. But afterwards, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's also coming."
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, you heard his voice, but you also hear his voice in the base games. I didn't know.
If he's in the base game. Like they showed Miles, but it was Miles from the first game.
Right, because his shape up was.
Right, exactly. That's what I said. That's what I said during the stream. Like, look, you know which game it is. That's before he got his haircut.
Right, get the shape up.
I do kind of wonder. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do wonder if maybe the reason they didn't focus on Miles Morales in the announcement is because it hasn't necessarily sold as well as Spider-Man PS4, because that was one of the system's top-selling games back in the day. So they're like, hey, we want to sell more of this game here. But I think they had the option of going that way, or saying, hey, here's this game that's only on PS5 that you have not had the opportunity to play thus far, and that's the Miles Morales game. Here, we're giving it to you. And I think they had the option to go one of two ways in that announcement, especially if they were announcing both games at once. And I think they went with the first one, and I think that was kind of a mistake.
Yeah,
and
it's
funny.
You cut off a whole demographic when you don't, because the Miles just appeals to so many people, and even kids who might not know who Peter Parker is. Unfortunately, they know who Miles Morales is because of Into the Spider-Verse. So in their eyes, that is who Spider-Man is. Obviously, younger kids who've seen that, but if they're watching the movies, but like, if you would have said, hey, you get the remastered edition, all the DLC, and guess what? Miles Morales is on top of that. To me, that adds more value to it. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
I'm pretty much getting 2 games in one, plus all the DLC. That's a whole package. You know what I'm saying? So it adds more value to it. I think I agree with you. They definitely missed out on that, focusing on both of them.
And Nick the OG in chat makes the next point I was going to make. Says, I'm legit surprised there's still no port of Bloodborne. I see people begging for it everywhere, and it sold great on the heels of Elden Ring. I bet a PC port would go gangbusters. I think that's what people was hoping this port announcement was going to be, was Bloodborne and not Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man makes sense, but Bloodborne is what folks wanted. And I don't know. People keep asking for it. Sony keeps kind of not bothering with it. It may be too much trouble for them to try and port that forward.
It'll be a PS6 exclusive when it got Demon Souls.
Because I don't get why they wouldn't have done it yet.
I kind of wonder if maybe pre-Elden Ring, the Soulsborne community was considered a bit more niche than the audience for a game like Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because
and they're gonna be niche, especially for that game in particular, because it wasn't exclusive. Yeah. Like, there's just no way getting around that. If it's on less platforms, like, it's not gonna sell as much. So I don't know. They just need to get out of their heads and just put it on PC. But Honey Money makes the point that, you know, there's a lot of work that probably goes into that because the mechanics are tied to the frame rate. So who knows? But they did buy Blue Point, who specializes in just making games work elsewhere. Okay, so this next reveal weirdly got me very excited. Street Fighter 6.
I couldn't tell it what it was doing. It was open world, but like I don't know how besides just
walking around in the world.
Yeah. Like I don't know. Like it didn't tell me anything besides open world. Like, and them just walking. Like it wasn't like there was like a field and you see Ryu sitting on the top of the hill and you decide to go up there to challenge him. Like, okay, I could see that, but no, this was just them walking. I couldn't, and you could tell it sometime in the future because you see like an old man Ryu. There was an old man.
This is definitely kind of the story has moved forward. Like both Chun-Li and Ryu kind of look very like they look like masterful in like their portrayal. Mm-hmm. It's like there are newer, younger fighters who are kind of getting a bit of shine here. So I will say, like, they said open world, and my brain just went wild at the possibilities. So like I was more excited for just like the possibility of what could be an open world Street Fighter. Now you see
what people were excited about Sonic with. Now you see.
Yeah, no. I definitely understand the excitement, but like you're absolutely right in that they didn't show what's in this open world. What I would hope for though is something in the vein of like Sifu, where like you're playing with a Street Fighter character and they have their own movesets, but like, or maybe even I'd even accept like Yakuza style open world action, right? Where like you're walking around, you're maybe talking to people, and then you get into street fights. But what I suspect is that it'll be more like how Mortal Kombat handles its story, where you'll get like maybe side missions and quests or whatever in this open world area. But anytime you need to fight, it's going to just shift you to that 2D perspective and you'll fight on the 2D plane like using regular Street Fighter mechanics, which is a little more disappointing.
Yeah.
But it's Street Fighter, so Street Fighter has had one of the most solid 2D fighting engines in history. So like it's not the worst thing you could ask for. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It looks freaking amazing. Yeah. Like I don't know. I've seen people complain about the look of the game. I'm really into the look. Like it's very stylized. It looks somewhat real, but also hyper real at the same time. Like they have like that weird inking filter over the top of them, especially when they do like those EX moves and parries or whatever.
Right.
And everybody's like too big, like in terms of like humans. Like humans are not as big as these characters are, but it works in that style. Like if like it's an overall style that they're going for, and I am a fan. Like I really like the style they're going for. I like the music they played in the trailer. Like I'm very excited for this, and it's being released from its PlayStation exclusivity, like 5 was. So this will be on Xbox as well.
Yeah.
Which should help because Street Fighter 5 I feel like got buried because of the fact that it was an exclusive. Like people weren't really talking about it and using it in like tournaments. It seems like. But I mean, was anybody else impressed by this trailer, or were you guys actually disappointed?
I mean, I mean, it's Street Fighter to me, so it definitely makes you want to go ahead and go buy yourself an arcade pad and play it for sure. But yeah, I mean, the color scheme looks pretty sick. Like, I mean, I'm not a big fighting game. I mean, like I said, to me, either way, I still think it looks clean. You know, the design, the graphics, you know, and stuff like that. But
they did
those hardcore gamers, when it comes to that play Street Fighter like that, You know what I mean? Something
Right.
else. So
That's how. That's what I was gonna say. Like a lot of the hardcore people who go to like Evo and like we got a couple people in the chat who like Street Fighter. I play that like all the time. It's like, I wonder what those people are thinking because it definitely is a. While the 2D combat keeps those people happy, it is definitely trying to open it up to more people with incorporating some exploration and stuff like that. Which I'm hoping that's what they mean by open world. So
Another thing of note is apparently there's a simple control scheme in this game where they're adopting a control scheme that's a lot more like Smash as an option. Like they're not changing it for everyone. But like if for example you struggle like with the special inputs for certain characters, like how Guile has to like hold backwards or hold down to like do a certain move or whatnot, you can change it so that you just press a direction and a button input, which is like how Smash functions. Tekken does that as well.
Tekken 7 has that, yeah.
Yeah, so like that actually excites me, who has old man hands and would love to get into more fighting games, to like not have to do a bunch of button inputs. Like, just let me do the move I want in the right time I want. Like it'll still feel the same in terms of pulling it off in the middle of a fight. So like that also excites me in terms of like actual gameplay changes that'll make this more accessible. So I'm really excited about that, honestly.
I ain't gonna lie.
I don't think that's existed in this before.
Street Fighter in like a Tekken type of frame wouldn't be too bad either, if you ask me.
You mean like full 3D movement or?
Yeah, like
Did they try that? I feel like there's one or two Street Fighter games that did that.
I don't know.
But seeing it in like I said, I played like Soul Calibur and stuff like that way back in the day. But seeing Street Fighter characters like that and in that type of gameplay wouldn't be too bad. That's just my opinion, though. So,
someone look this up in the chat if you would. But Street Fighter EX, I think, is the series that were 3D fighting games with Street Fighter characters. I could be wrong, but I know they exist. But I think Street Fighter EX is the name of it. But okay, hey, Rachel, did you have anything else to add about Street Fighter or no?
Oh, I mean, the only thing I noticed that I really liked, I was really digging the fight scene animations. I wasn't really sure about the open world because it feels like they're deliberately obscuring a lot of the details of it. I'm pretty sure, just from the way it looks, that it's going to be like a custom character of some kind. I don't think it's going to be...
I think they did say that. Yeah.
But I was watching some of the gameplay. I mean, this is the thing I've always liked about Street Fighter is the way it animates is the way the characters are animated. You can see the way their attacks flow from one to the other, but there's still like distinctive movements in between. And I think I'm really excited about the way they've managed to do that while still making it look more realistic. Like they could have easily like pulled that a little bit, like in the interest of making it look more realistic. It's like, oh, we're not going to have Chun-Li, for example, like be able to extend her legs quite so far because that's not a realistic human proportion thing. Like, and now I think they've struck a nice balance between, well, we're going to go for realistic body proportions, but no, we're also going to make them look like the cartoon people that they started as, basically.
Right.
And the fights still look really smooth and crisp, and I like it. That's all I ask from a fighting game, is that it doesn't look like it's going to bore the crap out of me.
Right. And DJ in chat is confirming, yes, they tried it 3D fighting with the EX series. So that's out there if you want to look it up and try it. But I guess they gave up on it because there hasn't been one in several years. Okay. I want to skip over Final Fantasy right now because I feel like there's a lot to talk about there.
I love Final Fantasy.
There's some smaller announcements. Let's go to Callisto Protocol. This is the team Striking Distance, who are made up of some former Dead Space veterans, making a very Dead Space-like horror game. It had in my opinion, a pretty good showing. It looks like a very atmospheric, horror-filled world. What are you guys' thoughts? Did this excite you? Like, are you Dead Space fans? Are you looking forward to Callisto Protocol?
I definitely thought it was Dead Space.
You thought it was Dead Space. Well, there's a reason for that.
I went even older. I'm like, hey, look, it's System Shock.
Oh, man.
I was like, yeah, I know. I'm showing my age there a little bit. But I mean, same thing, really. Come on.
Yeah, it's
No, I thought it looked good.
monsters in space. Yeah,
And we're kind of releasing it, I think, from the obligation of being set in the PUBG universe.
yeah. They
So I
they
think
got
that
away from
helps.
that, which is probably a good call because what even is the PUBG universe?
Right. They're trying to create a whole nother meta.
Yeah, like prison planet, a prison on the moon of Jupiter. That doesn't necessarily, I don't associate that with PUBG in any way. It's like, thank you, Krafton, for releasing the reins there.
Yeah, that was a good call. We have Rollerdrome. This is what I mentioned earlier. It's kind of a very cartoonish aesthetic. Like it looks like just straight up like hand drawn animation, but you're playing this kind of skating, gun toting, acrobatic woman who is just shooting like these weird Mad Max esque looking enemies. Like it's very over the top. Like have you guys seen My Friend Pedro, like that 2D bullet time shooty game?
Yeah.
It looks like that, but it also has like Tony Hawk style like a Tony Hawk style trick system, and you're like going up ramps and like doing flips and whatnot. Like it's combining all those things together, and like it looks like so much fun. And it's from the team that did Ali Ali World, that just nailed the mechanics of like just speed and like style in terms of like skateboarding. So like I really like I'm really looking forward to this. Like this was kind of a breakout surprise. Like I had no idea that this was a thing that was coming. And for them to get kind of a big showing at a PlayStation show, I think kind of speaks to probably the quality and the impression that this left on, the Sony team. So I don't know. I think people should keep this on their radar if they didn't have it on there before. That really kind of wowed me.
I just put it on mine.
Nice.
Yeah. You're welcome.
How do folks feel about Eternites? This kind of Persona-esque super anime action slasher. Like, does it leave a lasting impression on anyone? No?
No, it reminds me of that one slasher that looked like Bayonetta, but it wasn't. It was like a... What was that one they showed a while ago?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can't remember what the name of that is because, yes, it was very forgettable.
That's what this was.
Yeah, it was like a lady who was just in like some sort of very shiny spandex and like doing kind of lukewarm action stuff. Yeah, I cannot remember what that is called. What else is on here? Season. This is kind of a narrative adventure game type thing where you're taking pictures. Looks neat. Did they say that if this was coming to their PlayStation Plus service?
I do not remember.
Because I think something like this would definitely benefit from that sort of exposure. Because I don't know, especially with some of the other stuff that's coming out around the same time. I don't know if it'll get buried or not.
No, I didn't say.
But I definitely would want to check this out.
It just says it's coming out autumn 2022.
Okay, so pretty vague.
Yeah, quite vague.
All right, I can't see anything else here other than... No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you were getting into the VR titles.
Oh, did I miss them? Miss any? Oh, right, yeah. Oh my God, the Horizon. Were you gonna bring that up?
Horizon
Yeah, that's
VR.
what I was gonna. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I definitely did forget that.
Yeah, Horizon VR. It looks pretty cool. I mean, I'm fresh off of finishing Forbidden West, and they also announced that there's a bunch of new stuff coming to Forbidden West. Actually, my best friend has been waiting. Like, she finished Forbidden West, and now she's been waiting for New Game Plus to come out. I literally texted her as soon as I saw that. It's like, Horizon New Game Plus out now, go! So,
Nice.
But anyway, with the VR, yeah, that looks. I think that looks more like they're trying to like show off something as opposed. It looks more like a small snippet of a VR game. It doesn't look like necessarily. It's just. It doesn't look like it's going to be like some huge open world game that happens to be in VR. It's like here's a chunk of like a slice of life thing in VR that's set in the Forbidden West world, so you can see all the cool robot dinosaurs up close. And if that's all it is, I'm fine with it.
Oh, interesting. Because I felt like that trailer actually did show like gameplay, like a lot of gameplay. Like there was like fights with the robots, like you're using a bow and arrow to fight stuff. they had you like climbing and doing like weird like puzzles. And I'm very impressed with like the motion tracking. It looks like of their new controllers because like the character had like a pickaxe or something and was like literally winding or unwinding a rope from around it. And I was like, oh, that's very cool that you can kind of get that level of like granular movement in VR. Because I played like a tech demo where I had like a little bow and arrow mini game. You're like standing stationary and shooting and stuff, and it feels really cool to do that. To have that as the core gameplay mechanic of something like Horizon Zero Dawn, and like in that setting, I think that'll really blow people's minds in a way that I feel like the core game doesn't. Like I'm actually very bored by the core loop of Horizon,
Fair.
of the Horizon games. And,
Yeah. What I meant is I
J
don't
Mate
think
was
it's-
saying this as well.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
That the addition of the VR stuff is kind of the thing that would set that world apart because it's a beautiful world. They tell a pretty decent story in it, but the gameplay is very mediocre. Like it's not really doing anything to excite players, but giving you decent VR gameplay in that world is definitely a leap forward. So like I think that franchise needs this.
That's fair.
But how about you, Jeff? Did this strike you as interesting? Something that would get you to buy a PlayStation VR 2?
Probably not. I'm not really into VR. VR's okay. I think my level of interest has risen in VR. I played Super Hot.
Yes, yeah. You talked
Right.
about that experience.
And
a
I,
bit.
I actually enjoyed that. I thought it was very good. Like the mechanics of, you could throw your gun, you could pull stuff to you, like ducking and, melee combat. Like it was a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. So it took my interest in VR from like a 2 to like at least a 6 or a 7. So that does look great, but it doesn't like scream to me that I want to get that. Like, oh yeah, I must. That's a must get for me. It just doesn't.
Right.
Pull it from. But I think it looks amazing. I think it looks beautiful. Like you said, the combat looks great. I love the tracking with the bow. My only concern is the thing I noticed too. A lot of times is you need a very open space to play some of these VR games.
Right, yeah. Like
And-
like in the real world, you need an open space.
Right. So I'm wondering with that, how does that translate? Because in Super Hot, you had like a little box you were in pretty much. And that was still a little confined, right? Because it takes, it scans and takes into account of stuff that's around you. So like in this big world, how is that going to take into account if you're playing in your living room and you're playing in your room? Like, do you need to really be like in a very, very like clear out the furniture type space? Because it is a lot bigger sandbox than something like Super Hot.
Yeah, how exactly it controls is definitely of interest. Because that is a barrier for entry for VR stuff in general, is just having the space to use it. How about you, Fast X?
VRs aren't my thing because I cannot, due to my headaches, I cannot wear
You get like motion sickness and stuff?
that. Yeah, so I cannot deal with any VR type or years in the military kind of screwed that for me. So I can't. Yeah, so that's not gonna happen. But just watching the gameplay is good enough for me. Just the way how. But yeah, the room part is always the interesting part for me because I've always seen bloopers of people knocking down this or knocking somebody out. So you get too close, running up on somebody, getting excited in the game. So like that.
I've only hit 3 people in my VR headset.
So, what I mean? I wish I could experience that, but yeah, that's not gonna happen for me when it comes to the VR. But
funny.
always the graphics and stuff and the gameplay always looks nice. So
Okay, so Rachel, you currently have a VR headset, you said, right?
I have 2, yeah.
You have 2. Is this selling you on a third one?
Well, if it's because I don't have a PSVR headset, so I think it could in terms of I want to play the PSVR 2 anyway, if only because I want to see how Sony is like getting into this or I should say is expanding its interest in this field. And I don't know. I mean, I think I think VR can expand and become more accessible to people, especially. And I think having something, the MetaQuest 2 did this as well by making it so that you don't have to be tethered to a PC in order to play games. It's like,
Right.
hey, you want to play Beat Saber? Just get up in your living room and do it. And yeah, I think I think having something that is tied to a console is also a way of it sounds counterintuitive, a way of freeing it up a little bit. But consoles are just generally more turnkey devices than PCs are, so you don't there's no fiddling with it. It's just plug in and we're playing Horizon VR. And
Yeah.
I think that's a huge barrier for entry to VR. So and in the past, I don't think Sony necessarily marketed the PSVR, the original one, very well. So I think that was part of the reason it wasn't particularly. Nor do I think it had like great killer apps or something like that. So I think that's one of the
Yeah,
things
that's
that a game like the Call of the Horizon VR, and also even Resident Evil Village in VR, just as a sort of like, hey, here's everything it can do. Here are the games that you would already be interested in VR, and it doesn't require any special know-how. It doesn't require any savvy. Just plug it in and you can play it. And I mean, on a technical level, I just want to see what the new controllers look like, what the new headset looks like.
Right.
But so it doesn't necessarily need to sell me on anything, but I think it could. If I'm buying one myself, so yeah,
Okay.
I'm still
Yeah,
a little cautious, but I like what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, this definitely seemed like the easiest, most like hassle-free way to get into VR. Like, I don't have any VR
Right.
stuff, and I've been very interested in trying something at some point. And this has kind of jumped up in terms of things I'd be interested in probably trying to get my hands on at some point.
Right. Because like if I was going to get one as well, it would definitely have to be
It'll probably be one of these.
PlayStation VR, just because it's backed by PlayStation, is more likely to have games that I'm more interested in playing, as opposed to if I get what's the other one called
Oculus?
again? Oculus, yeah, there you go, boom. And then when I'm like, the games I want to play are on PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? So it does create more of a. I'm more likely to find games in a general area if it came from PlayStation.
Okay, makes sense.
I think it'd be really cool if I don't know. Do they have Spider-Man on VR?
Oh man.
Not official Spider-Man in VR.
Well,
I've seen some stuff.
I
But
see. But that would be interesting to see on with the new VR whenever they come out with it. If they're gonna adapt, games like Spider-Man, we could actually, do that stuff across.
Yeah, like if they somehow mandated that all their first party things like incorporate at least some VR functionality, like that would definitely go a long way in getting people to like buy into it, I'm sure.
Yeah, or
Uh,
just
but-
make it so I could just jack in and just play Spider-Man that way.
You about Nerve Gear? Is that is that what you're getting at?
Just go, because I'm not restricted by the area that I'm in. I can just jump into that world. I'm not gonna be knocking any TVs down or knocking people out. You know what I'm saying? And I could jump in that world and have a good time.
I mean, I think we're still a ways off
Oh, we were
from
at
that,
least-
but I
at
think
least
we're definitely gonna get there because the way the real world is looking, everyone is definitely gonna be going to the virtual world soon.
ready
But
for
speaking of
Player
anime
One.
boys,
escape into the metaverse.
exactly. But speaking of anime boys, let's get into the Final Fantasy 16 talk. They've showed off a lot of gameplay in this trailer.
Yes.
How are you guys reacting to this kind of evolution, it feels like, of the Final Fantasy series? This seems like a very different Final Fantasy than the ones that have come before. Any thoughts?
Didn't look much Final Fantasy as I remember. They're definitely going into the fantasy part, and it was very hack and slash-ish. Like it didn't look like a Final Fantasy game to me.
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think it looked like a Final Fantasy game.
Well, they've
But
gone
that was
away.
a good thing, in my opinion.
I mean, they've gone away from the old turnkey.
Yeah,
A lot of
turn-based stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of the classic. And they've been doing that for a while. They've been slowly but surely trying to, I guess, incorporate different looks. Now, I collect a lot of Final Fantasy stuff. I've gotten the majority of the games that came out. I don't play them, but I do have them just because I like
You
the
just get them
series.
to get them. Okay.
Yeah, so I have, everything brand new still, just tucked away.
Oh, did we lose Fast Axe?
I think we did. I thought he was
Yes.
still.
I thought you were still talking to us. Like,
Yeah. It's like, were you collecting your thoughts? Oh no.
Okay, well, while he probably resets or figures out what's going on there, anybody else want to chime in here on their Final Fantasy 16 trailer thoughts?
I really like the art design in this. It's going for a very European kind of old master style. I love that. Like, oh, Fast Tax, you back?
You guys can hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you froze for a
Ooh.
bit.
Yeah, you were frozen
Uh-oh.
for a little tiny bit.
Yeah, but and it's not just like English. Like a lot of times when people go for like a European fantasy style, they instinctively go for like English art or that sort of old school Tudor England kind of style. But no, it looks like they're going full like whole European fantasy as well. I'm getting a little bit of Witcher flavor as well, which
I
was
can see
based on
that.
the same thing.
I
So-
do like the fact that they're giving each summon their like own specific look, and they have graduated a lot from the older style look of some of the summons, and now they have more of a fantasy style, I guess, human style type of look.
right.
You know what I mean? So, I like the look. I like how it's graduated over the years. How they've done it. Here and there. I'm not opposed to the evolution that it has. And hence why I collect them. You know what I mean? Because just from what it used to be to what it is now, and how the graphics look. You know what I mean? In Stranger Paradise, from that to now, what is it? King's Glaive, I believe, was the story one as well, or the DLC.
Yeah, the DLC for 15.
15. I have 15.
And Deep Scrub in chat also says that 16 looked a lot like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which, yeah, I agree with. Like, they're pushing everything into this more active, combat-heavy thing. And I believe one of the leads on this game, I believe Marty mentioned, was the combat lead for Devil May Cry 5.
And it does look like that. My only issue with the super flashy combat is, like, you're doing this flashy stuff, but then you wind up doing like five damage. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, and then you get what I'm saying? Like, you hit him like 16 times, you're flipping and doing that, and then like, oh, 5
still-
damage. Yeah, it's like,
So yeah, because that's par for the course in a JRPG, right? Where like
Right.
you get this super long cutscene, this giant explosion, and like half the planet is missing, and then you just cut back to standing in front of the enemy. I'm hoping, like you're saying, that they fully just evolve it. Like, all right, let's maybe drop some of these more RPG centric tropes and just make it an action game, because it looks like an action game right now. And I know for a fact that's gonna piss off Final Fantasy fans, because it's not a Final Fantasy game anymore. Like, they're really going for a different thing.
A real hard.
That isn't going to appeal to JRPG fans.
what's the name?
But it
was
appeals to
similar
me.
it. It
So
was,
I'm kind of excited for the first time for a Final Fantasy game.
yeah, the combat
mean,
is similar to what was it? The one with Noctis in it. It was very similar to that.
15, yeah.
15. Yeah, but see, that's what happens when you have new technology. You explore the game to bring out different. You know what I mean? Try to, like I said, evolve. Just make it a little different, because you're not gonna keep the same old. Certain things keep going when it comes to. I mean, like I said, they've been kind of phasing out little by little by little over each Final Fantasy when it came to like the gameplay, and because Final Fantasy is always known for its cutscenes. Because Final Fantasy is the legendary, is the standard for cutscenes when it came to 7, even a little bit before that. You know what I mean? Everybody appreciated the cutscene factor when it came to the summons or a move or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's still in play in a lot of the Final Fantasies still. You know what I mean? But just the way how the gameplay has changed a little bit, you get a little bit more action versus, all right, you're standing there, from turn-based to active time-based, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So the action's not a bad thing in my personal opinion. You go around, you still have certain elements of the game, But yeah, like you said, you can have hardcore, like, oh, I don't like this. We should just go back to turn-based, or they should just be standing still. I mean, eh.
Yeah.
Like actually play your video game. That's how I feel. Like, stop watching your video game. But to be fair, I think there's probably going to be a lot of that anyway. Like, the summon stuff that you mentioned, like they have health bars on the top of the screen.
Yeah.
Like. So it looks like just super stylized Pokemon battles, which I hope is a thing in it. Like maybe that's like a side thing that you do, like where you like you maybe collect summons and then like you have to battle other summons with your summons and like. I don't know, give them food or like go on dates with them or something to like level them up. I don't know how they're gonna manage that, but it looked cool. So like they'll probably. What my hope is that if anything, the majority of the game is just a straight up action game, right? And for the fans who are like kind of upset that there isn't any more tactics or turn-based strategy in it anymore, we'll get all of that in like this summon section. Like you can basically put all your stats and raise up and spec how you want your different summons to do summon based battling, and then that'll cover the RPG stuff. It probably won't make everybody happy, but to me, I feel like that's a nice middle ground.
I mean, the open world stuff is a good middle ground. Like I said, if
this open world?
No. I'm just saying. Was it not this one, but the one before it? A couple ones before it.
15?
That had some type of like an open world feel to it.
Yeah, 15 definitely had.
Yeah, I think 15 was like that, like what you're describing.
But if you're able to, regardless, like I said, if you still have the same old summons or a way to get them, a way to fight them, and to incorporate them in the game, I don't see any issue. If you can still incorporate a lot of the old stuff, just make it a little bit more futuristic, I don't see the issue. Because not a lot of games are good.
Oh dang! I think we lost Fast Axe again.
Yes.
So we'll wait for his connection to catch back up. Real quick, Andrew S in chat also saying Final Fantasy IX cinematics blew my mind as a kid. So that's just a nice callback. So yeah, people do love the cinematics and whatnot, and those do seem to be in spades here.
Yeah,
9 was your favorite. Okay.
Yeah, my favorite. Yeah.
That was with Vivi, wasn't it? When it brought it back to Steiner, Vivi, and yeah.
Okay. Koenig A said, "Would it look like Mondstadt?" That's the first area in Genshin Impact.
Oh yeah. I was wondering why I didn't get that reference. It's like, is that a Final Fantasy thing that I'm forgetting? Like, oh, that's Genshin Impact, right?
Yeah, that's Genshin Impact's first kingdom, whatever. No, it does not look like the world is going to look anything like that. Genshin Impact is very anime. This looks this like Rachel mentioned earlier, like it looks kind of like European fantasy punk, like Witcher or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I do think that maybe in the past, I mean, with regards to the traditional like turn-based combat party system, I think, and I'm not a Final Fantasy like expert or anything like that, but from what I've seen of the reactions from people who are, it seems like trying to marry that and action, like turn-based and action in previous games has not satisfied people. So I think it's probably good for them to just finally like move the needle entirely in the direction of action and not.
If that's where they want to be, then just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's like you want to make an action game, make an action game. That's fine.
If
I think they've finally gone that way.
They're not satisfied. They could always go play online. You can the online version is still going. So,
but does that count as an action game?
So no. When she was talking about
turn-based is what it means.
Turn-based is what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Like if they really want, you can still play the online version and still have that if you want to do all that. You know what I mean? But
yeah. To be honest, like, because Final Fantasy XIV's combat is like World of Warcraft, where like you're managing cooldowns and like stuff is kind of happening. Like you're not in direct control of what's happening. I feel like, right?
Right, but
like,
what
that's
I'm
not the
saying
same
is
thing as like turn-based Final Fantasy where you're literally like picking moves from a list and like waiting for the enemy to do a thing before you do a thing. Like it is pretty different. So like I do feel for the Final Fantasy fan who has not had a proper turn-based Final Fantasy game since what, the 13 games? Like 13 1, 2 and 3.
Oh, maybe that'll make them play. Maybe if they haven't tried Persona 5, maybe that'll send them that way because Persona 5 was turn-based, right?
Yeah, Persona 5 is
Yeah,
turn-based.
Persona Vice, yeah.
But that's not a Final Fantasy game.
Right.
That's them essentially basically leaving the series then if they're unhappy with it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since you've actually had like turn-based Final Fantasy turn-based.
Yeah, true. So like I can feel their frustration but my question is, was it not selling? Like why is Final Fantasy sort of pushing this more action heavy thing? Like
I think is they're trying to get more
God of
see
War
that.
sold, The Witcher sold, Devil May Cry sold. Yeah, sorry, that's me being cynical, but I think that's it.
okay,
there.
so Final Fantasy didn't then? Like did 15, well 15 was more actiony, I guess. So the 313s I'm assuming might have been where they decided to make this fork, right? Like and those games I do think were maybe kind of middling in terms of people's reception, right?
Yeah, they weren't in love with the protagonist, but also I've tried to play him, and then I remember when it came out. I think I got it from Blockbuster. I took it back like the same day. It just wasn't fun.
Yeah, there were certain ones that, oh man, was it the ones with the prototype O or something like that? And then there was a few others that were kind of like, eh. I mean, I personally have them just because it's just a Final Fantasy title. But
Right.
some of those in the middle per se weren't well received. You know what I mean?
So I can see the lineage now then.
So when, like what Rachel said, when they said turn the needle, just go action, I think, like I said, they were starting to go that way. And then after a while, it's like, we're just gonna go that way. Just make it a little better, maybe. And maybe it might be more well received. But yeah, you have those titles in between that were kind of weird. So
yeah, Deep Scrub says, I heard a ton of bad things about the second and third 13 games, though that was all character and story related, not because of turn-based combat. And I'm inclined to believe you that that's probably the reason why it wasn't well received, but rarely do video game companies take the right lessons from poor sales. Usually they'll say this game didn't sell and this other game sold, therefore our game should be more like that game rather than we should make a better version of our own game.
Right. And we've seen games progressively, as a sequel comes out, almost change genres. We've seen that with Assassin's Creed, right? It went from traditional Assassin's Creed to an open world now. We're seeing that now with Final Fantasy, to where it's changing things up. You know, there's only so many things you can add, change the story, keep the same combat. You know, they're trying to add something else in it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then, you know, I'm sure they're more than able to go back to what's been working.
I mean, Assassin's Creed, in my opinion, has so much potential. Oh my gosh. The ideas that could be brought to Assassin's Creed is ridiculous. I think that game is so limited, just my opinion. Because,
Okay.
oh, because I was always a fan of the PvP. I've already said it. I've stated it before. That could have been a standalone deal. Way back when.
Matter of fact, I want to say a trailer just came out for a game that is doing that. And I cannot remember what it's called, but it's essentially like the hiding in plain sight type multiplayer thing from Assassin's Creed 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I even see this trailer? I don't remember anymore.
Oh, in your dreams.
Anyway. Koenig loves all. Koenig A Loves All says, I don't understand why everyone hates pause action in single player. It's much better than turn-based, taking its tactical aspect and not as mashy as action. Multi-character games do not do well in real time. I don't know. I've not had good experiences with pause action single player games. Like Dragon Age Inquisition was one that did
Dragon
that.
Age lets you do both. You could do
Yeah, it lets you do both.
Yeah. So you can just go live action, or you could pause it and do the strategic. You know, you could do pause act, whatever you want to call it. But you had the option to do both, and maybe that might be a middle ground for some games like that, where it gives you the options to do both.
D-Trump says, yep, it's exactly like you said, Casey. Squeenix did that thing where they just decided, well, nobody likes turn-based combat anymore. Instead of the right lesson, they were shocked when Bravely Default did well because nobody likes turn-based combat anymore.
I don't know if they decided nobody likes turn-based combats anymore. I think they decided not enough people like turn-based to make the game a big seller, like The Witcher, God of War, etc.,
Right, yeah.
etc.
Like Final Fantasy is Square Enix's, if
Baby.
I'm not mistaken, biggest franchise.
Especially now that they've jettisoned their American studios.
Right. Like they got rid of those guys. Like, we don't need you. Final Fantasy is kind of what they're...
Right.
You walk into the door, there's probably a giant Cloud Strife like in the lobby, is my guess.
Until Dino Crisis comes out.
It's Capcom, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought they sold them. They sold them.
They sold the Dino Crisis. Okay.
They sold Dino Crisis.
Okay, so any lingering thoughts on Final Fantasy before we wrap things up? No, we're all tapped out on the Sony State of Play.
I felt like it was very underwhelming.
Really?
The State of Play was very underwhelming.
Okay, like why do you feel that way?
It wasn't anything that shocked and awed me. There was like no big announcements. You know, like that one big announcement that nobody was expecting, but everybody wanted. Like I didn't.
Was there anything that you wanted out of this that you were like, oh, well, they didn't talk about X?
Well, I don't know because I didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? It's like I wanted something I didn't know I wanted, but then I got it. I'm like, you know what? I'm excited about that. Like, you know,
Okay.
like those big E3 moments where you're sitting there and you're like, oh, they just announced a Perfect Dark remake. They were, you know, those type of feelings. Like, oh, when they first announced Phantasy Star New Genesis, I was excited about that. Like stuff like those. Oh my god! Like I can't wait for this to come out. There was nothing there that even made me want to consider putting a rush on getting a PS5.
Gotcha. Okay. Did anyone else feel underwhelmed?
I think it's I think it's just real difficult across the board now to have that type of feeling with a lot of remasters going on to make games look a lot better with the newer technology. Just to start something from scratch and give you that feeling it's pretty difficult, especially with if studios don't have patience with developers and this and that and everything else. Like creativity is kind of I don't want to say mediocre in any way, but it's just rough to kind of start something from the ground up and just give you that feeling like back in the day compared to now. You know, but like I said, with newer technology, a lot of the remasters going, you know what I mean? And we see a lot of it in the past few years, a lot more remastered games with the newer systems. Just catching that feeling is difficult. This is my honest opinion, you know, with, you know, and with time and money and everything else, it's pretty hard to give that consumer what you used to feel like a decade ago.
I get what you're saying. And I don't know if that's like the gaming industry's fault, like more so as it is, you know, we as consumers, especially, you know, of our ilk who play a lot of video games and spend a lot of time talking and listening to other people talk about video games. It's like we've seen all this stuff before. Like the amount of like we're more numb to some of these announcements than probably other people. So like the ability to wow us in particular is going to be a lot harder than probably the general public. But that being said, before Rachel, you chime in, I guess I'll go ahead and say like I was actually very impressed by this State of Play. Like I thought Sony showed off a lot of strong content outside of their strongest, because we already know what their heavy hitters are, and they said that they wouldn't really be here. With the exception of like a Spider-Man mention and a Horizon Zero Dawn VR experience. Like they basically said like, hey, we have other experiences coming here that are of note from our third-party partners. And like I thought they did a really good appetizer for maybe some later announcements, probably in the heat of Summer Games Fest, you would hope. And like and overall as a presentation, like it was a very quick cadence. The stuff they showed off had gameplay to show for the most part. Like it wasn't just words on the screen or a title reveal like Dragon Age just did recently. And it did get me excited for at the very least it got me to feel like if you are a PlayStation fan, like if PlayStation is your only console, like there's stuff coming for you, which is you always want to keep your fan base, feeling like there's value in their purchase. And honestly, from this, I got the feeling like yes, there's stuff coming for the PS5.
I think only thing I want to add is I'm pleased. I wrote an article about this for The Escapist a while ago that I'm pleased that gaming event show that the people who put on gaming events are giving you a bit of a chance to about what to expect, giving you a glimpse of what to expect ahead of time, and then they stick with that. Like they told us ahead of time, this is going to be third-party games and VR titles. And I will admit, when I was in the YouTube chat for the live stream, a lot of people are going, "Why are there so many VR titles?" And I'm like, guys, they told you it was going to be VR. I think there is we've gone through an experience because we had a state of play back in February that everyone was like, "Oh, worst state of play ever," even though they said, well, we're going to be focusing on mostly Japanese titles. I believe that was what it was. Feels like it's been so long since February.
No, I think you're right.
But yeah, everyone said that was they didn't like that, and even I think we're going through a period where we're adjusting. So we know now. I think we can trust Sony when they say, or any other game developer when they say, this is what we'll be showing at this event. They know this is what they'll be showing. So there weren't people tuning into the state of play being like, oh my god, we're going to get an update on God of War Ragnarok, because we knew ahead of time. Well, they pretty much told us ahead of time you aren't going to get that.
Yeah, you're not
and I think
that.
now we're thinking, okay, yeah, we're not going to get that. Let's see what else they have to offer.
Yeah, exactly. So, I had my expectations, I guess, set by Sony, and I felt like they delivered on exactly that. Like the PlayStation VR 2 stuff they showed off was much more impressive than I thought it would be. Like I'm not a Resident Evil fan, but those experiences look fun. Not a Horizon Zero Dawn fan, but that experience looks fun in VR. And then the other stuff they showed off also looks fun. Like, and that's just because they were strong showings for games in general. Like Street Fighter 6 is coming to other consoles. I'm probably not going to play that on PlayStation, but thanks PlayStation for showing it to me because now I'm interested. So like overall, like I liked it. I thought it was a strong showing.
I ain't gonna lie. Ever since I've got that PlayStation, I've turned it on 3 times. 3.
Fair. Yeah, I've not really been using mine much either.
And the only reason why I got it was Genshin Impact because I didn't want it on PC, and then EDF Earth Defense Force because I love EDF. So
and you should. That is a fun series.
I'm just that's the only reason why I have my PlayStation, and for other few little things here and there. But yeah, I only turned it on like 3 times so far.
Big same. Well, probably more than 3 times, but not since. But okay, so that's gonna actually wrap things up for today's show. Thanks everybody in chat for listening and watching. If you're watching live, Rachel, why don't you let folks know what you have coming up this week that they can check out from you?
Okay, sure. So yeah, you guys know that I'm Rachel Kaiser. I'm news writer over at GamesBeat. So I mentioned that specifically because since we're doing the E3 adjacent show this week, there's going to be a lot of stories coming out from me and from the other guys at GamesBeat about all the summer game stuff. So that's going to be basically my entire week. And you can find me at my Twitter up at top, and that's at Rachel Kaiser. And I'm also getting back into streaming. So I did a stream last night, and I did a stream early this week, and so that's finally happening. I've been saying I was going to do it for a while. I'm finally doing it. So you might have seen my name in the chat. You can follow me at Grace of Athena. But yeah, everything goes through my Twitter. If you want to see anything that I do as well, you know that in the non-gaming realm, I do recaps of Perry Mason and Golden Girls on my private blog. So if you're ever interested in hearing what I have to say about old TV shows, then yeah, I got you covered.
Nice. Superman Jeff, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up this week?
Monday. Today we'll be back on the Super Smash Sunday with myself today, just me. Come in and check that out today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, Monday, I'll be back with Fight Night. Be doing some Elden Ring PvP. And And that should be it. Also, if you want to check out some of my Fiona and Kate fan fiction, check that out on my page as well. I got some of that going on, getting ready for the multiverses.
Is it safe for work?
Was not expecting that.
It's ready, so definitely check that out.
We can plug our fan fiction. Why didn't you tell me?
Oh my god.
Okay, I guess that does it for Jeff. Fat Stacks, what do you have coming up this week that folks can check out from you?
Well, as you can find me at the Fat Stacks, just like how it's spelled on all the socials and my Twitter, Twitch. Well, today I'm gonna be in that Mario Kart tournament that every once in a while Nintendo Versus have for coins and whatnot. So I'm gonna try my luck at that here later on today. Other than that, I stay busy with the anime store. So if you guys are into anime, check that out.
Yeah, I saw you post a bunch of Demon Slayer figures. Like those look really cool.
Yes, I have, and I go across the board. It's not just what's hot, but also I try to get my hands on old stuff as well. So if you're interested, www.thefatstacks.com. Like I said, blankets, cups, backpacks, anything for anybody across the board. If you're a big anime person and you're looking for a certain item, if you don't see it, DM me. I will try to find it for you. But yeah, I spend a lot of my time doing that. Streaming is kind of taking a backseat just a bit.
All right, but I mean, we appreciate that grind. Like, get us those exclusive anime figures that we can't find anywhere else.
Yes.
Appreciate it. As for me, you can find me at SigmaGears9 on Twitter, as well as right here on this Twitch channel. Weird that Jeff is doing a Super Smash Sunday stream later today by himself, because I'm also doing one. So I guess we're going to be competing Super Smash Sunday streams. So I don't know. Join the Open Party channel. See how that goes at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Outside of that, like Rachel said, Summer Games Fest is coming up this week. The Escapists will be doing a bunch of live streams to watch along a lot of the shows and whatnot. I'll be involved in some of them, not all of them. Not sure what's on the schedule just yet, but watch our content throughout the week if you like, and you'll probably see me doing some of that stuff. So some of our regular weekly streams will be postponed in order to cover that stuff. So just keep an eye out. Other than that, make sure you're following all of these lovely people here on this show with me. Appreciate all three of you for being guests once again. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Really love the conversation and the chat that we have every single week. Next week, though, there will not be a show because of the Summer Game Fest stuff. So like that's what I was trying to desperately remember, as I had an important announcement. There will be no Sigma show next week because of the Game Fest stuff. So watch that instead. But anyway, that's gonna do it for episode 68. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Appreciate it, y'all.